for hearing me today. Chair Huffman, members of the committee, I'm very pleased to testify about the Common Core State Standards, the process that was used to write them, and what I think is their value. Let me say a little bit about myself first. My name is Bill McCallum. I'm a distinguished professor of mathematics from the University of Arizona. I've been in Arizona for 27 years. Before that, I was at the University of California, Berkeley for 3 years. Before that, I was a graduate student at Harvard University, where I got my PhD in mathematics. And in my career as a researcher and as a lecturer, I visited the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, the Institute for Mathematical Sciences Research Institute in Berkeley, and I've had a long career as a mathematics researcher and as a university teacher. During that career, I've also had about 20 years of experience working in undergraduate education and K-12 education. And for my work in those areas, I've been very fortunate to receive awards from the National Science Foundation, from the American Mathematical Society, and from the Mathematical Association of America. And when in 2009 I was asked to lead the work team that would write the Common Core State Standards in Mathematics, I decided that I would put to use every single ounce of trust and faith that I had developed with both the mathematics research communities and the mathematics education communities to do what I could to produce the best possible standards this country could have. I want to say a little bit about how the standards were developed. But first, I just want to say that I think these standards are a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to improve our children's prospect for college and career readiness. You'll hear a lot about international comparisons. You've probably already heard them. And I firmly believe that our children are no less capable than the children of other countries. They can meet high standards, and they deserve the opportunity to do so. So the standards process started, I believe, in 2007 with a meeting of the Council of Chief State School Officers. But I started work on the standards myself in 2009, as I said before. And I got a call from Chris Minnick, who you'll be hearing from later, around September of 2009, asking me if I would lead the work team. There was a group of about 80 people, teachers, mathematicians, mathematics education researchers, representatives of state departments of education, best minds in the country. It was a fantastic group of people, divided into a work team and a feedback group that I led. There was also a validation committee that was formed. They were really meant to be arm's length from us. They were not involved in the work of writing the standards. We did have some communication with some of them during that year, but that was a committee that we didn't deal with so much. You've heard a lot of accounts, probably, of this process. And I just want to say there are a lot of false accounts out there circulating about the process of writing the standards. And I myself find myself being misquoted or quoted out of context frequently. So whenever I learn of that, I do try and set that record straight. So what did we do? Well, we started writing standards. We started with some raw material produced by our work team, submitted by the experts, the teachers, the researchers who are on our work team for various different grade levels, various different progressions across grades. And there was a core group of three of us, myself, Jason Zimber, and Phil Barron, who were the lead writers. So our job was really to sort of translate that raw material into standards, feed them back to the group, and go through this cycle of feedback and revision throughout that year. It was a very intense year. We did a lot of that rewriting. We sent the standards out to the states for review 3 times that year. Ohio, by the way, was a really strong participant in that process. Fran Findell, who is here today, was on the work team. He was then with the Ohio State Department of Education. He got teachers from all over the state to participate in this feedback process, and I'm sure you'll hear from him more about it. I'm from Arizona. I know that in Arizona they constituted teams of teachers all over the state to review the standards in this cycle. We also had the standards reviewed by national organizations like the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, Teachers Unions, American Federation of Teachers. I remember one weekend when Jason Zimmer and I spent a whole weekend with a group of teachers at the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, who pulled from all over the state, all over the country, I should say. And we really got it going over from those teachers who had lots of things to say about the standards, and they wanted us to change a lot of things, and we did. I remember there was one teacher, Betty Biddard from Florida, said you have to put a standard in first grade about understanding the meaning of the equal sign. She was pretty firm about that, so we did that. We then also did release, the standards were also released in March. So after all this process, there was a public draft release in March of 2009. We got 10,000 comments from the public on those. Those were compiled into a great big spreadsheet. I went through every single comment and I looked at them carefully, and we made changes in response to those comments as well. One comment we had was somebody wanted us, and this was more than once, someone wanted us to make it very clear that third graders should learn their times table, so they should know them from memory, and so we put that standard in between the public release and the final release. I remember there was another commenter who was very, very concerned that the word percentage that we used in the 6th grade standards was the wrong word. We should use the word percent, so we attended to that as well. So we made changes big and small in response to that public feedback in March. I want to say a little bit about the evidence for the standards. The standards were based on the best evidence we could find. We had researchers in the team who were specialists in early childhood learning. We had national reports that we looked at, such as the report of the National Math Advisory Committee that was constituted under President Bush. We looked at national documents produced by National Council of Teachers of Mathematics with recommendations on focus in mathematics. Subsequent to the standards being released, there's been a very important research by an internationally renowned expert in comparing, in international comparisons, William Schmidt at Michigan State University. He examined how close the Common Core standards were to standards of high-achieving countries, and he found in grades K through 8, and he found they were very closely aligned. And he also found they were more closely aligned than any other previous state standards, and that includes Massachusetts, and that includes Ohio. And that alignment is no accident, because we looked very hard at the standards of high-achieving countries. We looked at the standards of best state standards, including Massachusetts, including California, including Ohio. So it's no accident that there was that alignment there. The support for the standards is evident in a number of ways. The presidents of every major mathematical society in this country have signed a letter supporting the standards. And I just want to read you a quote from a teacher in a suburban school district in Missouri, who happens to be an evangelical Christian. She said, "My dear colleagues teaching in my high school are no longer asking, we never understood this stuff, so why should the students be expected to? We are recognizing the difference between students trained as robots versus students who can think. Elementary school teachers are welcoming professional development so that fractions make sense to them." Fractions was a big part of our focus, by the way, being a topic that a lot of people have trouble with. So I want to say a little bit about the shifts in the standards and how these standards are an improvement over what came before.